Hello there. So this is going to be a video on how to make Mary a little bit more musical. So I think the first thing that you'll want to take a look at is just make sure that you're playing the melody louder than the accompaniment every time. So that might sound something like this. You actually already have the first few measures down, so I'll just start here. This can be thought of as a melody in the right hand. This, not a melody. You wouldn't imagine singing ba-da-da when you're like, have a song stuck in your head. Ba-da-da isn't really all that singable. So just make sure that the right hand, basically all of the right hand, is more or less louder always. So it'll sound like this. So if you're doing it right, it'll sound like that. If you're doing it wrong, it'll sound more like this. You can maybe ask some kind souls in your family to tell you which of those two does your version sound more like, and then you can, adjust to fit. If you've got that down pretty easily, and it shouldn't take you too long, I don't think, the next thing to do is consider dynamics and articulation. So, for dynamics, right, starting here, go for a decrescendo. Remember, decrescendo is the alligator jaws that I wrote in your music, and you get louder to softer each time, so it'll sound more like this. And then quiet here, because 4 notes, so in order to maintain the same level of sound, you're going to need to play each of the 4 notes a little bit quieter, right? Because otherwise it will sound like this. It'll kind of startle people. So that's that section. And then remember what I was telling you about for dynamics is as the notes get higher in pitch, you'll want to make the notes louder. Just in the melody. Don't worry so much about the left hand for now. So in the melody, if you're playing it right, it should sound a little bit like this. Hopefully you could hear that. I'm not sure if that's going to be the most helpful, but it'll be in contrast to this. You can tell in that little segment that I'm just playing each note in the melody. The melody is still louder than the left hand, but each note is just kind of on its own instead of a melody. I'm moving forward with the melody and kind of spinning it out, thinking about it as a line that someone would sing, which it is, rather than da 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 da, right? And the way you do that is just the higher you get, the louder you get. The only other thing that I can think of is, remember we talked about phrases, so the lines that I drew over a bunch of notes are the slurs, and those are musical sentences. So just think of each musical sentence as its own thing, and try and smoothly connect each note in the musical sentence so that there's no gap. And then when the one musical sentence ends, you can kind of chop that note off a little bit. I think your first musical sentence ends here. So that's the end of one thing. And that's the beginning of another. So I'm lifting up here and beginning again here. If I were to do that correctly in context and slur everything else that needs to be slurred together, just pay attention this time to how there aren't any gaps in the middle of slurs, and when one slur ends, there is a gap. Yeah, so if you can just kind of take a look at that for a little bit, then, you know, you're going to be in a good place for next week. We can figure out how to end it then. But in the meantime, just kind of try and work on that musicality. You may need to slow it down at first to get that amount of control, but I have faith. In addition, if Caitlin wants to take a look at something, I don't think she was able to look at the video I recorded last week. So we're kind of working on some of the same stuff from Galaxies there. So if you just want to let her know that video is available, if she's asking, then that would be good. Yahoo! Onward and upward.